But it was not the first time that the skies over Lubbock produced a sensation around the world. For a few weeks in 1951, people here witnessed a phenomenon of a different sort, a series of UFO sightings that 5 decades later still defies explanation. Beginning August 25, 1951, and for several nights that followed, a strange line of bluish lights were seen flying swiftly over Lubbock, Texas. This is an absolutely classic case for a number of different reasons, including the first group of people who saw the Lubbock Lights, 4 college professors from Texas Tech University. They attempted to make a study of what they'd seen, a scientific study. They weren't wholly successful, but in the end, they concluded that the Lubbock Lights were under intelligent control. A college freshman named Carl Hart Jr. was a budding still photographer who was just about to go to bed when he saw the Lubbock Lights.
So I just grabbed my camera and set the exposure on where I wanted it and ran back outside and waited, and then, 2 more flights came over. I think I got 2 pictures of one and 3 of the other. When I first processed them, I didn't think I had a thing until I really examined them closely, because they didn't take up a lot of room on that negative.
Hart took the photos to his Boy Scout leader, who contacted a reporter for the local newspaper, which eventually published them, but only after Hart endured the first in a series of grillings.
First, talked to the people at the Avalanche Journal. They were pretty skeptical. And then after they published, well, first it was the Air Force.
Local Air Force investigators turned Hart over to higher-ups from out of town, and eventually 2 FBI agents.
Pretty intense questioning. Yeah, they went over and over, my story. And I guess trying to catch me in being inconsistent.
The whole fleet of them, look on the ASA.
Military pilots have reported bizarre aircraft popping up around sensitive national security sites, and so have commercial pilots.
We just had something go right over the top of us.
Intelligence leaders in Congress like Senator Marco Rubio are growing increasingly concerned.
We don't know who they are, we don't know what it isn't ours.
Well, if there's look at that thing.
NASA Administrator Bill Nelson interviewed some of the military pilots who tracked them and then lost them.
They followed it, and then suddenly it would move in a direction faster than anything that they had ever seen.
The sightings picked up during the Obama administration.
We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory.
And then they picked up more through the Trump administration.
Movements that are hard to replicate, that we don't have the technology for.
And Trump's director of national intelligence suggested it's picked up more than the public's been told.
There are a lot more sightings than have been made public.
Australia's most famous UFO sighting. The object stayed on the ground for more than 20 minutes, then took off rapidly, and some say it was buzzed by 5 aircraft. The school children were warned never to speak of it, authorities telling them that flying saucers just don't exist. But 50 years later, witnesses insist they know exactly what they saw.
We noticed these 3 craft hovering above the school, which was a bit unusual. They definitely weren't aircraft. And then after about 10 minutes, we saw one go down into an area behind our school called the Grange. I was one of the first to run through and jump over the fence and arrive at the Grange, and it was on the ground in front of me. After a few minutes, it just raised up above me, probably to about 12 feet, turned on its side and went zoom straight up into the air and disappeared almost instantly. And there were 2 other craft in the air at the time.
Definitely a UFO. I was actually in science class, and we had a student had rung in and flung the door open and said, Mr. Greenwood, there's things in the sky, there's flying saucers in the sky. So we all ran down the corridor and out onto the oval, and yes, there were flying saucers in the sky. I saw 3 of them.
When we noticed it in the sky, It did some manoeuvres which were very strange, which is why our attention was drawn to it in the first place. And then it came down over the Grange. We could see it coming down, so we took off after it.
Tell us a bit more about these craft. What colour were they? How big were they? Did they actually land, or were they just hovering above the ground?
The craft I saw was silver in colour. It was round. It did come down on the ground. Even though I didn't see it on the ground, I saw the marks that it left later on that day. It could move incredibly fast, and it could also appear to stand still. When it took off from the other aircraft that were buzzing it, it made them look as though they were at standstill.